So for today's video we're heading up to some beech trees near a place called Darwin Forest, which make a lovely archway. We're going to pop up around sunset and hoping to get a nice shot of that with the orange light on the trees. So as you can see, we managed to catch the light on the trees quite well here. This is the shot I was aiming for, with the nice glows of sunset on the beech trees. Okay, so the journey for this one's a little bit different. It's just a 10-20 minute journey in the car for me to get up here, but I've come with a dog in a car as opposed to on a motorbike, so there's no real footage of that. We're just going to walk down here now and head through up a moor down this track, and it will take us into the forest. At the end there we turn right and we'll see the beech trees, which is what we're aiming to get a shot of today. It's a nice track, only be a 10-minute walk to get down there, and we'll go get a nice shot at sunset. Okay, so this is it, guys. Load of beech trees over this wall to my left, and they just look really pretty. We've got here at sunset, and to the right it's a nice forest which is looking very orangey already. There's a dog by my feet running around like a lunatic, and we're going to head up to the end here. It's not far at all, and we'll see if the shot's better in this direction or looking back down this way. Okay, so we're all set up. I'll show you the tripod setup I'm using. It's got the 28-70 f2 on it at the moment, and I'm just shooting a portrait shot down through the beech trees there. I'm using the full 70mm at the moment. I have done an intermediate one as well, and I've also done a shot with a 15-35. As you can see, there's a beautiful sunset to my left, and this is a great little spot, especially nice on a misty morning. I'll throw you up a picture I took a while ago in the mist looking the other way. I'm going to use the 28-70, not the 15-35 today, and I'll tell you a little about that fantastic lens separately. So this, in my view, is the best lens ever made, and I don't make that statement lightly. It really is astonishing. So this is the 28-70 f2 made by Canon. You only have a single switch on it, AF and MF, autofocus and manual focus. It has the control ring as per all other RF lenses. It's a zoom lens, externally zooming, so it gets larger as it zooms in. And it is staggering as lenses go. Every intro and outro of my videos is taken on that lens. This would normally be taken on that lens. I'm using my 50mm instead, but this is it. This is the lens that you want. If you are considering buying one, but you're put off by the cost, don't be. It is every bit as good as people say it is. It's like having primes in the 28-70 focal length. So if you are thinking about getting a 28-70, go do it. You will not regret it. It's worth the money. So our final picture was taken down at 1/60th of a second, which is reasonably slow exposure, but fine on a tripod, no issues with that. The aperture was down at 5.6. Now this was a lens that's capable of driving down to f2, but there are two downsides to that. One is you get so much light in that it will flood the picture, and the other is that the sharpness of the full field of view is compromised. So 5.6 was great for a sharp image throughout, and the ISO was set to 100 because we had plenty of light from the sun. The focal length was set to 28mm, so it was at the widest end of that lens's capabilities. It is a constant aperture f2, which means at any focal length, be it 28 through to 70, it can always do f2. We were on single shooting, and we had our subject to detect set to none, and we were doing electronic shutter for this one. So here were a few shots taken on the evening. There was a lovely glow from the sun, and the view over the fields as the sun dropped was really spectacular. If you like sunsets, it's a good place to go. A few artistic ones using the trees up close, and a very well behaved Labrador waiting for a treat there. Okay, so this is our starting point for today. The image itself is fine, it's okay. We're only interested in the bottom half of it though. The top half of the image, all these trees really don't add much, And what I was looking for is the effect of going into a tunnel that you get with these beech trees down at the bottom. So that's where we're looking. We will immediately chop off a large section of the image to start our work, and then I'm going to duplicate that layer and start bringing up the shadows. This isn't going to be a composite image. This is going to be made from just the one photo. So I'm just going to go Image, Adjustments, then Shadows and Highlights, and I'm just going to bring up this path to a level that I'm happy with. I'm ignoring the trees, they're irrelevant for this. And then I'm going to boost the color correction. Okay. And now I'm going to create a layer mask, and I'm going to go to the bucket tool with a black brush and paint the whole thing to get rid of that layer. Then to a white brush, and I will use 50% opacity. I need a fairly big brush. I'm going to go for about 600 pixels, and I'm going to start brushing in that layer that we've just made. And I just want to brighten up the wall, the leaves, the floor, etc. Okay, let's just turn the layer mask off. To do that, I hold Shift and then click on the mask. Okay, so we've pretty well brought that through. If we hold Alt and click on the layer mask, you can see very clearly what is and isn't brought through. I'll bring in the rest of that. Let me just go to 100% brush. I'm going to leave the feathering around the edges, but all the foreground I will just bring straight through. Okay, so I think that's what we're looking for. So Alt again and click to turn that off. So before and after. That's the effect I wanted, really. So I'm going to click on both layers, duplicate them, and then merge them together. And that gives me one layer with that combined image in. I've still kept the workings below in case I need to fall back to it, but that will work for now. So I'm going to brighten up this wall, and I'm going to use the dodge tool for this. And I'm going to use a brush of about 500 pixels. I'm interested in shadows, and 49% is fine again for that. And I'm just looking to pull out some detail in this wall leading into the picture. Okay, happy with that. And a little bit up here as well, just around the base of the trees. Now, the leaves here are in shadow. I'm going to give them a light touch. I'm going to use a bigger brush, 1000 pixels, but I'm going to drop the exposure down to about 20% and just give them a bit of a brightening, but not a lot. So before looked like this, and now it's this. Okay, happy with that. I'm going to duplicate again. And the next thing I'm going to do is a really big push on the colour. So I'm going to use the colour balance, Control B, or Image Adjustments, Colour Balance. And I'm going to look at shadows first. I will do all three, shadows, mids and highlights, and I'm going to be boosting that red quite a lot. You can see when I say quite a lot, it's small amounts on the slider, and it's quite nice when they fall into an alignment like this. I generally see that as an indicator that what I'm doing is quite natural. Okay, so the before was this, and the after is this. So I've really brought out the orange glow of the sunset here. The composition of the wall leads you into the picture. They call them leading lines, and that's guiding our eyes towards that archway at the end there. So I'm going to use the burn tool, and I want it on shadows, and I've got 20%. So I'm just looking to darken the end of the arch, and I'm going to use a much bigger brush and feather it in as well. And I just want it to look a bit more mysterious down at the end. So before you see trees, and afterwards you can't. So we'll duplicate that layer again. Now our leading lines are drawing our eyes to that center point, but I have too much dead space at the front of this image, so I'd like to crop that in further. I'm sort of okay with equidistant leading lines from the corner here, so I might try and go for something about there. Okay, so that's probably about 50% of the image size, which is generally where I aim to be at a max. So the next thing I'm going to do is just levels. I'm going to pull up the black point. So Control L for levels. The black point is the left slider. I'm going to pull that in to darken the image, but also maintain the vibrance in it. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Now I'd like to punch up the vibrance of the grass. So I'm just going to duplicate the layer and see if I go image, adjustments, and then vibrance, whether or not I can make the grass go where I want it to. I think I probably can. Obviously that's far too red as an image, but it's the grass I'm interested in. Okay, so I've boosted the grass there. I'm going to duplicate again and then take the reds down. I think it's time for some selective colour. So image, adjustments, and then selective colour. So on our reds, we're going to play with the cyan first. Obviously if we go left you can see it boosts that. If we go right it drops it. So we can drop it, which has a similar effect to what levels and curves did, but I want to make this more natural, so I'm going to play with our magenta and that will fix it. Okay, I'm just going to keep playing with these two until I find a balance that I like. So at the moment in the image it looks like you're stood up looking down a path. I'm tempted to make it appear that you're crouched down looking forwards by bringing this crop up so the leading line goes to the corner edge of the wall there. And that will give a different perspective on the image. So it makes you look lower down, staring into the void. Brings you very close to this tree as well, which I quite like. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick unsharp mask, tool sharpen unsharp mask, and I'm just going to pull that down a little bit. It's the branch. What I'm looking for is the branches at the top here. I just want a bit of definition around them. If I go right up, you'll see it goes crazy. I just want a little change there. Okay, so I'll turn that off and then on. Okay, and I'll duplicate the layer again. I'm going to look at brightness and contrast this time. So image adjustments, brightness and contrast. Now if I drop the contrast down and then bump the brightness a little bit, that's a bit of a more natural colour to the image. So before, after. So that's not dissimilar to how it looked on the day. I would like to punch up this green a little bit. A number of ways you can do that. I'm just going to quickly use a quick selection tool. And then, because I want this to look quite natural, I'm going to click Refine Edge here. And I'm going to feather it out. And you can see that it's softened the edge. So when I then go Image, Adjustments, Vibrance and Saturation, the Vibrance can pop up and the Saturation can too. So that's 48 and 9% for Vibrance and Saturation respectively. And that looks quite natural. So before, after. Okay, I'm going to duplicate again. I might pull a little bit of the red out. So Control M for curves, Alt 3 for red. Just pull that down a tiny bit. So before, after. Maybe take that a little further. Okay, so before, after. Okay, I'm happy with that. So this dead space on the left side of the image doesn't help hugely with the framing, but I think the tree does. So I'm going to crop that in line with the tree, which I think gives a nicer view of the image. So I'm just going to duplicate the layer once more, and I will have a look at shadows and highlights. So I'm seeing if I want to boost this. Quite like that. That's a 4% boost. And dropping the highlights down 12%. I don't need much colour correction, so I'm dropping that back a bit. It's plus 13. Just see the before and after. Okay, that gives, on this tree here, you can see more of a texture change when you switch this. I quite like that. So I think a gradient at the top would help darken that down in a nice way. So if you press and hold on the paint bucket tool, you bring up the gradient tool. So I've got it on this bottom right, one called neutral density, and it would let me just draw a line on the image and it will shade it in line with that. I'm going to pull down the top of the image and I think that will look quite natural. Okay, so before and after. I might just brighten this section of trees a little bit, just to pull you in a little further. So it will be the dodge tool. 1000 is fine, shadows and 23%. I'm okay with that. Just going to bring that up a little bit. Don't need to go mad with this. So before, after. I think that's better. Okay, so I'm just going to have a look at vibrance one more time. Image adjustments, vibrance. I'll push that a little further. Okay, so I've managed to increase the vibrance 39% and the saturation 3%, just giving it a little bit more of that orange punch. So I think the texture of the trees is looking nice. The leading line's good. I like the darkness it leads into. I'm worried I've got too much space at the top of the image, but I don't want to crop it again just yet. So I'll probably have a break from this one, come back and see if I still like it. Okay, so coming back to the image, I do like it, but I think I do want to tweak it a little bit further. I feel that the space at the top of the image is a bit distracting. It's very busy with all the branches in the sky, and it's not leading me into the tunnel, which is the focal point of the image. So I'm going to go a little further with my crop and bring it in here. And I'll just duplicate that because I want to make a couple of other tweaks as well. So because I've changed the crop, it's changed the way the gradient has applied. So I'm going to pull that in a little bit further too. Yeah, I think I like that. I'm just going to do one more manual tweak. So I'm going to use the burn tool on highlights with a 20% exposure. I've got a big brush, about 1500, and I'm just aiming to pull this sky down a little bit at the top so it's not so distracting. So before and after. So it's left us with a bit of a dark theme, but not sort of a moody dark. It's a colourful sunset dark. I think I like it. I'm gonna give that another 5 minutes and come back to it again. Okay, so I've had a little break and come back to it again, and that's helped me see it's too red. So I'm going to duplicate the layer and pull another little bit of red out of it. And I'm going to do that by going to Image, Adjustments, and then Selective Colour. And on the red, I'm just going to pull that cyan a little bit. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's better. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with it. I can boost the overall brightness of the image, especially the lower end. So Control M for curves. I'm just going to pull up that bottom end a little bit. And I think that's all I'm going to do. I'm a little bit tempted to crop out this section. I'm not sure. That might be better. Might be too far. So now I've pulled the red out, I feel like I've got too much yellow, and this might end up being a vicious circle at this point. So Control L for levels. See how that goes. I think that's better. So I popped it to 1.14 on the center point. I'm going to give it another look at in 5 minutes and see what I think. Okay, I've come back to that again, and I quite like the image. There are other tweaks I could make, but I think that's good. It stands zoom. The texture of the trees is nice. The focal point is the center of the image, which is what I wanted. People often tell you should not bullseye an image, i.e. put the center point as the focus. I like to do that quite often, actually. I think it looks nice. It is personal preference with a lot of these things, so don't follow the rules too closely. I think that's quite a nice final result. If we look back at where we started, it was quite a different image to what we've ended up with, and that is what I was looking for when I went to that location. So I hope you enjoyed that one, guys. The sunset was spectacular up there, and we ended up with a nice shot of the trees. If you enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.